We have previously restored the IBM PS2 Model 30 8086 and Model 5286 on this channel. Today we're going to restore these much faster PS2 Model 55SX. My guess is that the 55SX to the left is an early version, and the 55SX to the right here is a slightly newer revision. But no need to guess, let's explore them together. It's been years since I tested these PS2s, but I left a note on the case. This one here says black screen, and the machine to the right here says flaky floppy and bad Dallas. The design of the case is very similar to the Model 30 286, but these machines have 16 MHz 386s. The condition of these two is pretty rough, but they look like they might clean up well. I can't see any scratches or dents, just decades of grime and dirt. Let's start with what I think is the early machine here. The camera is not great at picking up dirt and grime. This case is way worse in real life than on camera. This cover here has yellowed, so that's a first for me on a PS2 actually. Apparently I forgot a diskette in the drive. That's the starter disk. At the back here we have an international power supply that seems to be completely filled up with nasty dusts. And unfortunately someone snatched a card here. We also have a sticker here that says PS2 type 8555. With the two screws out, I think the cover should come right off. And it does. Holy smokes, that is disgusting. So, this machine seems to be a barn find. This is the worst machine I have seen in a very long time. This may actually be the most disgusting project I have worked on so far. The entire machine is just completely filled up with nasty dust. This PS2 has not been stored well. Well, the good thing here is that the Dallas battery is in a socket. The battery is dated week 20 of 1990. Same thing with these BIOS chips here. They are from September of 1990. Just have a look at this riser card here. This machine has not been stored well. Just look at these dust bunnies. It must have been left in a barn for decades. Aside from a missing card here, this machine looks pretty complete. With a diskette drive and a hard drive. There is a bag here with a small plastic tab. I guess I'll try to glue it back on. The hard drive has a rather unusual connector on these machines. It has this very large connector stuck directly onto the riser card. And here's the reason why this is one of many PS2 systems that I left in storage instead of restoring. Because I didn't have a sound card for the MCA bus until very recently. But if you're a regular viewer of this channel, you know that we now have an AdLib card to play with for the weird and wonderful MCA bus. There is an equally large connector on the hard drive. This is a bit unusual. If we pull this piece off, well, you can also see that this machine has two RAM sticks. These are IBM PS2 specials, but you can hack regular sticks and install them in one of these machines. So it's not too hard to upgrade RAM on one of these machines. The speaker is connected to the riser card. So if we disconnect it and remove the card, and back here we have quite a few bodges, but they look like they are from factory. Here we can also see the connectors from the power supply. And they are IBM PS2 specials too. Same thing with the diskette drive. It has an IBM PS2 special. That goes for the hard drive too. So no Molex connectors here. I think I'm gonna pull the motherboard first. Being a PS2, it's put together with bolt head screws. So nut driver is a must when working on one of these machines. All the screws are coming out very easily, so I don't think we have any corrosion. That means it has probably been stored dry. Very dusty, but dry. I sometimes wish these machines could talk and tell us where the heck it was stored to become this bloody disgusting. Okay, I'll try to stop whining now and get that board out. The layer of crap on these chips is so thick, I can't even see what chips they are. Before I wash this board, I'm gonna pull that Dallas battery off. And both BIOS chips. I better pull those RAM sticks too. If I remember correctly, all that's needed to use regular RAM sticks in this machine is to ground 2 of the pins. If we have time for it later in the video, we'll try that hack. The power switch is connected to the power supply with a metal rod, so that needs to be pulled off before we can remove the power supply. Overall, this machine is very similar to the Model 30 286, but it's quite a bit faster. I think the power supply is just held on with one screw. The front and back panel are held on with these plastic clips here. An easy way to remove them is to use a nut driver and just push on them from the inside. Obviously not the intended tool, but it works really well. The round shape of the nut driver compresses all 4 tabs in one go and makes for a very safe removal. Back cover off and none of the tabs broke. Well, disgusting or not, I have a really good feeling about this machine. I think it will clean up really well, because all that dust is dry. Well, I guess we'll see after the wash. This piece is a bit over-engineered. It's made out of really heavy die-cast aluminium. Pretty hefty piece. Next up we have the lock. I don't have the key for it, but we'll put it back in anyways. To remove the hard drive, we have to remove this plastic tab here first. Unfortunately, my favorite bending tool broke when I was working on the SCOM machines, so I need to get a new set. But let's try with this way too large tool. No, it doesn't fit. Apparently a screwdriver will do the job too. Both drives are pulled out through the front panel. That means we need to remove these 2 covers. They are held in place with tabs on the inside. Oh, I see. So now we know where this piece belongs. One of these tabs is broken off. Let's hope this one is in a better shape. These machines are not known to be fragile, but it makes sense to be careful anyways with plastic tabs. Well, this cover is okay, and I'll just glue that piece back on. So now we can pull both drives out through the front panel. These drives are known to have leaky caps, but this board is so dusty I can't really tell if they are leaking or not. So we need to wash that board before we can check. Same thing with the diskette drive. It's locked in place with a tab, and then it comes out through the front. This drive is completely filled with dust too. These drives are not known to have leaky caps, so the flakiness of this drive is probably just caused by all that dust inside. Unlike the Model 30, this case has a large plastic piece here that holds the speaker in place. It also seems to have a holder for a much larger battery. So perhaps these machines can be used with a different battery than the onboard Dallas. But there is no cable for that battery. So I'll see if I can find a connector on the motherboard, and maybe we'll skip that Dallas battery. This piece was really easy to remove. I just pushed on this plastic tab here and it came right off. I'll remove the speaker before I wash this piece, because speakers don't like soapy water. To remove the front panel, we have more of these tabs, so we'll remove them the same way as we remove the back panel. If I remember correctly, there is one tab hidden underneath here. It's pretty much inaccessible, so I'm gonna try to bend the cover off with a soft prying tool. I think that's how I got it off in the Model 30. And finally we need to press these two tabs here to pull that front panel off. Yep. Yeah, that went really well. And again, with this method, none of the tabs broke. So this is a great method to remove these front panels. With the front panel off, we can now remove the drive cradle. Aside from this screw here, it's also held in place with these two tabs here, stuck down into these brackets. No need to remove the power switch, so the cage is ready for a wash. The only corrosion I have found in this machine so far is on the lid of this drive here. So let's lift that cover off and have a look inside. That's pretty bad. This Mitsubishi drive has some really large dust bunnies inside. So I think I'm gonna wash this drive in soapy water. But aside from that dust, I can't see any issues here. This drive is probably okay. I don't want to soak the entire hard drive in soapy water, but we need to clean that PCB and check those caps. So let's remove that PCB and have a look inside. I think these are T10. So let's carefully pull that PCB off and check for ribbon cables. The PCB is very dusty, but the hard drive looks pretty clean. Let's remove that connector here and free up that PCB completely so we can wash it and inspect it. Like so. Same thing with this connector here. There is a frame here that holds the PCB to the hard drive. I can't feel any scratchiness when turning the hard drive manually. It just feels very nice and smooth. So that hard drive might be good. So these are the two suspect caps. And they are 47 micro 16 volts and 100 micro 6 volts. I hope I have some in my stash, but I think I do. But I'll clean the board before we check them. Next we have the power supply. Unfortunately it's put together with rivets. Since it's filled with dust, we have to take those rivets out. And the usual disclaimer. Please don't poke around inside power supplies. They may contain high voltages, even with the cord unplugged. That being said, this power supply definitely needs to come apart, because it's completely filled with dust. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Well, aside from all that dust. Okay, so these are not refas. The safety caps are some other brand. So all that's needed is some cleaning here. The fan is held in place with rivets too, so I'll try to clean it without removing it. But this should be easy. Okay, what I think was the older machine is now ready for cleaning. Oh, I made a mistake here. So this is the machine with the flaky floppy. So the first machine we took apart was a black screen. Well, that drive needs cleaning anyways. Well, same thing here actually. Plenty of dust in that power supply and one missing card. And this bag here was stuck to the lid. So apparently I have the original keys for it. So original IBM PS2 keys. Let's see if they fit. No, it actually doesn't. Let's try the other one. No, they don't fit. So these are the wrong keys. Maybe they are for the other machine. Let's try them in this lock here. Maybe I mixed them up. This lock looks pretty messed up. I think someone drilled here. And these keys definitely don't fit. This is really odd. Why do I have a set of keys inside the machine that don't seem to fit? No, they definitely don't. Maybe they are for my Model 30. I'll give that a try later. Okay, so this machine is clearly different from the other machine. So first off, we have a much thicker hard drive. There is a lot less dust inside here. Oh, this is hilarious. So someone has hacked the Dallas battery, which is a pretty common hack. But the funny thing here is that someone took a piece of an old clock and reused the battery holder. It looks pretty crappy, but it probably worked. The hack on the Dallas battery is quite nicely done, actually. That doesn't look too shabby at all. But this battery holder is a bit of a joke. I better be very careful. Good luck finding one of these if you break it. I can't see any difference between the two motherboards, so maybe I was mistaken. Maybe they are identical. Yeah, there's going to be a lot less cleaning here. This machine only has one RAM stick. Yeah, from what I can tell here, the only difference is the hard drive and this rather funky looking cable here. Well, since they are so similar, I'm gonna skip ahead here until I take that hard drive out. Yes, that hard drive is indeed different, but let's compare them later when everything is cleaned and washed. It's more fun playing with clean parts. I took the PCB off the hard drive to clean it, and these caps are clearly leaking, so they definitely need replacement. So if you have one of these machines, you need to replace these caps, whether the hard drive is still working or not, because that electrolyte will eventually destroy this PCB. Okay, all the bits and pieces have been washed and are now nice and clean. Let's start fixing things. Let's start with this cover here. I left it in peroxide for about 4 hours. It's not perfect, but it looks way better than before. So I will leave it in peroxide for a couple of more hours to get a closer match to the original color. But right now, let's glue this tab back on. I found this tab in a plastic bag inside a case. Of course, it's the missing tab from this cover. Okay, tab back on. But if we reinstall this cover now, that tab will just break off again. So let's reinforce it with more glue and baking soda. This is a great trick to fix broken off tabs. When the baking soda mixes with the glue, it creates this extremely strong bond. Way stronger than the original plastics. And it's very quick too. The glue reacts immediately when you put baking soda on it. So it's pretty much ready to be reinstalled right away. And here's the final result. If you use this method in invisible spots, you can sand or file this stuff down to make it look nice. In this case, it's not going to be visible, so I'm just gonna leave it like this. Next up we have these drives. And unfortunately, we do have a couple of leaky caps here. So we need to replace them. If we move in closer, you can clearly see the damage. Luckily, these pads are unused. But that pad here, that's just completely gone. The electrolyte that is coming out of these caps is very corrosive. So if you leave bad caps in long enough, they will destroy the PCB. It's hard to tell if it has caused any damage further down the board. But from what I can see here, this is still fixable. One of the pads is unfortunately not accessible. So we need to take this drive apart before we can replace those caps. Hopefully it's enough to lift this PCB. But let's find out. I have repaired many PS2 drives, but not this type, so this is a first for me. And now we can tilt this board up. Perfect. And now we have access to these two nasty caps here. We are indeed lucky. The electrolyte has caused damage to these unused pads here. But all the pads with components here, they seem to be okay. So this is a lucky board. It's too risky to use the Rework station this close to a plastic component. So I'm gonna play it safe with Chip Quick. But first some flux. These are, by the way, 10 microfarad 16 volts. So I'm going to place a big blob of chip quick on each pad. Ooh, that smells fishy. Chip quick is like regular solder, but it stays molten for longer. So by heating up both sides, you can just push that cap off. Now let's grab the other one, the same method. Big blob of chip quick, and then I just heat both pads up and very gently push that cap off the board. This is a very safe and easy way to remove surface mount caps. The chip quick is easily removed the same way as regular solder with flux and solder wick. It's very important to get all that stuff off, because you don't want to solder with chip quick. While the flux is still warm, I twist it off with a Q-tip. First with a dry Q-tip, and then with a Q-tip dipped in IPA. This is indeed a very lucky board. The electrolyte has started to eat away at these unused pads here. But the pads that actually matter, they are fine. So that's great. And if you have one of these drives, well, you know what to do. You need to order 2 10 microfarad 16 volt caps. Luckily I had some in my stash. I think they were intended for a hard drive in a Model 30. But I can always order some more. So let's use them for this drive instead. These caps are slightly taller than the original caps, but I think there is room enough for them. So we can at least fix one drive today. I will of course order some more caps and fix the other drive when they arrive. I actually thought these Mitsubishi drives didn't have leaky caps, so that's why I didn't prepare by ordering caps for them. But apparently I was wrong. These drives definitely leak, just like the older Alps drives. I have washed these drives in warm soapy water, so I'm going to apply some fresh PTFE on the worm shafts and also on these rails. There isn't much needed, just a tiny bit goes a long way. I'm also going to reapply some PTFE on these tabs. There are 4 of these, 2 on each side. Let's see if everything moves freely before we reinstall the drive. I think it does. Yeah, I think we're okay. There are some more moving parts here, but I can't see any old grease. So I'm gonna guess they don't need any grease. And they are moving freely. So yeah, I think we're okay. This drive is ready for a test. Next up we have the thin hard drive. And you guessed it, these caps are leaking on this board too. And this is a 30 meg drive with IBM part numbers. And it's actually made in UK. That is not a common sight. And we're in luck. I have these caps too in my stash. Intended for another project. But let's snatch them. And I'll order some more. There are no plastic parts here, so we can use the Rework station. So this cap is a 100 micro 6 volts. Yeah, there's definitely corrosion on these pads. But I think we caught it on time. And this cap here is a 47 micro 16 volts. This is a very common value. So I've got plenty of these. Yes, we're definitely lucky here. The solder has started to corrode, but all the pads look fine. When cleaning pads this close to an edge connector, you need to be a bit careful not to get any solder on these pads here. If we do, they won't make a good contact with the connector. Yeah, these pads are fine. Yeah, fixing up these machines today was a good choice. Left for a few more years, these boards will be destroyed by those caps. Apparently I have ordered these caps for a Model 30 project. I don't remember if they have identical hard drives, but at least they seem to use the same caps. The caps I found in my stash are slightly larger than the original caps, but apparently the pads are large enough to take these caps too. Okay, let's see if I remember how to reassemble this drive. Rather unusual. Yeah, this looks about right. And then we have two connectors to the PCB. One for the motor, and the other connector is presumably for the stepper motor. A couple of screws to hold the PCB down. And this drive is ready for a test too. Okay, moving on to the thick drive. And more leaky caps. This is a 60 meg drive with IBM part numbers too. And this drive is made in Japan. So we seem to have a theme going on here in this video. Leaky caps in IBM PS2 drives. So these two are 47 micro 16 volts. And this one here is 100 micro 6 volts. No plastic parts, so we can use a Rework station. By the way, I have washed all the boards in warm soapy water to make sure to get all that electrolyte off the board. Removing these caps is not enough. You also need to make sure to get all that electrolyte off. Some fresh flux. By the way, I just got back from Egypt. I went there to see the pyramids. They are really weird. So the Grand Pyramid is absolutely enormous, but it only has a tiny room inside. And inside that room it was absolutely boiling hot. According to the guide, it was 65 degrees Celsius. So I guess the mystery is solved. The pyramids are actually saunas. I don't quite understand why it's so hot inside. If anything, I would have thought it was cooler inside. Large building made out of stones. It should have been cool inside. Well, I guess I don't know much about such things. But I was really surprised. It was so hot. So some people who had paid the entrance fee actually turned around and walked out again. It was just too hot for them. But not me. Because going inside the pyramids was on my bucket list. So I went inside. And pretty much got cooked. So now I need a new crazy project to put on my bucket list. Suggestions are welcome. Okay, so two 47 micro 16 volt caps. By the way, the polarity is clearly marked on the board. These boards are pretty easy to recap, by the way. So this is a pretty good beginner's project. If you want to try to recap a board with surface mount caps. Well, now that we know that these PS2 drives are leaking, I will probably be restoring one PS2 each month or so, because I have a lot of PS2 systems to save. Okay, that was quick and easy. So let's clean that flux off. So my first Wintel system was an IBM PS2 Model 50 back in the day. So that's why I like to play around with these machines. An IBM PS2 is nostalgia at its best. Now that I have an MCA sound card, things got a lot more fun. Original AdLib cards for the MCA bus are pretty much unobtainium, and if you can find one, they are extremely expensive. But now we have a clone to play with. Okay, let's reconnect that PCB to the drive. Like so. a couple of screws to hold the PCB down. And this drive is ready for a test too. Okay, power supplies are nice and clean too. I decided to dry clean both power supplies. And I think that's good enough. So let's put that lid back on. Now we can reinstall the rivets. These are, by the way, 3mm if you're ordering parts for your projects. I'm a sucker for conspiracy theories, so I was really glad to find out that the Great Pyramid was in fact a sauna bath for aliens. I wouldn't have guessed in a million years. By the way, if you're replacing the rivets on your power supply, when you drill the old rivet out, a small piece will be left inside the power supply. Make sure to find all of these and get them out. You don't want to leave one of these inside the power supply. I was mistaken about one of these machines being an older revision. Both of these boards are the second revision of the 55SX board. They are easily identified by this extra empty socket here. Before we can test these machines, we need to put the ROMs back in. Instead of the dead Dallas battery, I'm gonna use these Dallas replacement PCBs that we made in the previous video, and a fresh coin cell. Okay, time for a test. So this is the PS2 that was marked black screen. I have my suspicion to why it was a black screen. Let's see if my guess was right. I'm gonna start with the starter diskette in the drive. So fingers crossed. Hard drive spins up. I think I hear the fan in the power supply. Yes, it's spinning. Oh no, it's still a black screen. Something isn't quite right with this machine. Huh. Well, that was a bad start. Okay, motherboard number 2. This PS2 was marked as bad Dallas and flaky floppy. Well, we know why the floppy was flaky. Well, that's interesting. We've got a black screen with this motherboard too. So that probably means the fault is not with the motherboard. Maybe my Dallas replacement is faulty. I don't know if it's tested. Let's try without the Dallas battery and see how it behaves. There is quite a lot of coil noise from the power supply, and we're getting nothing on the screen. So let's try with another Dallas battery. I don't know if these boards need a working Dallas battery to work. Oh, they do! So now we've got something on the screen. Okay, so I need to check my replacement module here. Something must be wrong with it. I guess it's faulty. So we've got an error 201. Let's turn the machine off and connect both drives. Still the same error 201. And it gets stuck in this mode. Let's try with the RAM stick installed. Oh, it's counting up the RAM now. Okay, I just assumed that that motherboard had some RAM on the motherboard. But maybe it doesn't. Okay, that's better. We got the usual errors for a bad battery on the motherboard. So let's try F1. Well, it went to basic. So that's not great. Let's try to reboot. So to access the BIOS on PS2 motherboards, we need to run the starter diskette. Unfortunately, something seems to be wrong with the drive. So if I reboot the machine... Oh, now it seeks. It wouldn't seek before. But then it makes that weird movement with the head. And then gets stuck. That is weird behavior for a drive. So replacing those two caps wasn't enough. Let's try with the other drive. It's counting up the RAM. It seeks. It reads. And we got a non-system disk or disk error. Oh, it boots! Awesome! Okay, so this drive still works. So if you're new to PS2 systems, this is sort of like the BIOS settings. So now I wonder if those caps were bipolar. They did look a bit weird. but they had a black stripe on one side. Okay, automatic configuration complete. Let's boot. That hard drive sounds really good, by the way. No, now it went to basic. Ha. So this drive is flaky too. Well, this is hilarious. Apparently I have 3 of these machines. I don't know why I have so many. I must have bought one and forgot about it. And bought another one. And forgot about it too. And then bought a 3rd machine. So let's see if we have a working drive in this IBM. Oh, that's actually a different drive. And the hard drive too is different. But the motherboard looks identical. So let's see what we've got here. Yes, this is an Alps drive and not a Mitsubishi. But we better have a look inside before we try this drive. This drive is much cleaner inside. There is a small amount of dust here. Oh crap, this drive too has leaky caps. In fact, it actually has a lot more corrosion than the Mitsubishi drives. Damn those leaky caps. Well, let's test that drive anyways. That didn't sound too good. Okay, the usual errors for a bad battery. To get rid of one of these, we need to set the clock. To set the clock, we need a working drive. Unfortunately, this drive too seems to be bad. No, I think this chip is bad too. Let me see if I can find another one. Okay, we're in luck. I found a working Dallas module in my Model 30 here. So let's borrow it. And I guess I need to build a few more of these up. Okay, fingers crossed. Okay, so now we've got a 165. So battery is okay. I don't remember what 165 is. I'm guessing it's the diskette drive. Because it doesn't boot to the diskette. Well, I guess the diskette could be bad too. I'll reboot a few times and see if we're lucky. No, we're not. That is a bad drive too. So 3 machines with 3 bad drives. Crap. Okay, let's try with a drive from the Model 30. This drive is different from the other drives. So I don't know if it will work with the Model 55. I did an inspection and all the caps that are visible are through-hole caps. So we don't seem to have leaky caps on this drive. Let's give it a try. This drive is tested, by the way. So we know it works. But will it work with this machine? Okay, it seeks and it reads. We've got a 165 error and non-system disk. Oh, that's weird. This drive actually behaves the same way. So if I try to boot, that's all it does. So now I actually think this diskette is bad. I guess I'll make a new copy. Okay, armed with a fresh copy of the reference diskette for the 55SX. These are, by the way, easy to find online. I got the image file from Arden Tools. Okay, fingers crossed. Let's see if it works. It spins up and it seeks. 165 error disappeared and now it reads. Haha, and it works. Awesome. Okay, so that was a bad diskette. Now let's set the time and date and see if we can make this machine boot to the hard drive. Automatically configure the system. Yes, please. Automatic configuration complete. Let's boot. Now let's set the time and date. I think it's set features. It is. Oh yes, of course. So the time and date is already set correctly. Because the time and date is stored in the Dallas chip and not on the motherboard. So if you move this module to another machine, you will also move the time and date settings. Okay, so then I think we're all good. Remove the reference diskette and press enter. Now let's see if it will boot to the hard drive. I have no idea what's on that hard drive, by the way. So that is probably the previous owner's stuff. Starting MS-DOS. Great, so that's a good hard drive. Excellent. Disk catching status. Compressed drive cache. It's got some antivirus stuff. IBM antivirus. And it's scanning the machine and it boots to Windows. Awesome. Well, that's a funky desktop background. Oh crap, I don't have a mouse attached. It's pretty slow to boot. So aside from that antivirus software, it also has Microsoft Word. That background is so 90s. And it's extremely slow to boot. But it shouldn't be, because this is a 386 system. So that is probably caused by the antivirus. It's probably checking the system now. Okay, cool. So we have a first win. This motherboard is good. And this hard drive is good. And the power supply, of course. So now that we know the diskette was faulty, we need to try the other drives again. That is a very nice and quiet hard drive, by the way. Never seen this screen before. Writing out the disk cache. Shutdown complete. What's that all about? Well, the other two drives are leaking. But let's try the recap drive. Okay, it spins up. It seeks. And I think it reads. It does. Okay. Great. So this recap drive works. I guess those caps weren't bipolar after all. Well, that's a win. So now at least we have one complete system fully working. But we're not going to stop here. Let's get back to that first motherboard. Okay, this is the black screen board. I have moved the working Dallas chip to this board. And the RAM stick. Now we have a tested diskette in the drive. Okay, fingers crossed. Yes, it's not a black screen. So maybe we had a faulty RAM stick on this board. Because the other board was a black screen too, without any installed RAM. Interesting. I guess that's the next thing to try. Let's make sure and do a quick test without RAM installed on the motherboard. No, it's not a black screen. We've got a 201 error. Huh. So why did we get a black screen? So maybe that was caused by a bad Dallas chip. Let's find out. Oh, it was. Okay, so without working Dallas chip, these boards only show a black screen. Okay, so black screen mystery solved. Okay, I decided to do some more tests off camera. So the second power supply is tested good. And I tested all the RAM sticks, and they are 2 meg sticks, all 3 of them. I also tested the drive for consistency. And it works perfectly, it boots every time. So all that was needed was to replace those 2 caps. Okay, I'm running out of time here, so I decided to reassemble one machine off camera. But we're not quite done yet. One of these IBMs will be back in a future video. In that video we will do some upgrades and have some fun with it. And now is a good time to watch the video where we built an ad-lib replica for the weird and wonderful MCA bus. I will end this video by saying thank you to my patrons. I appreciate your support. If you want to support me too, consider becoming a patron. Patrons get early access whenever possible. You can also support me with a like and a comment. If you're a regular viewer, consider subscribing to this channel. Thank you for watching, I'll see you next week.